sung her first opera performance, and she's been having a love affair with Benucci, who's a bass in the Italian company, and it has broken up, and she's very upset. And they're at a reception following the performance. Following the opening night's performance, there was a party in one of Joseph II's ballrooms. Everyone of consequence was invited, and the emperor himself could be seen pouring out wine to his guests. Anna had slept poorly the night before from her nervousness. She had been afraid she would not be in good voice, but she supposed everything had gone well. In a corner of the ballroom, Benucci flirted with some chorus girls. His face was damp and flushed, and he let out great booming laughs. One of the girls had her arms around his neck. Anna had sent Lydia to find a glass of punch, but she could not bear to stand there waiting while Benucci made love to chorus girls. She bowed to the gentleman whom she'd been talking to and fled past the tables of furrowed whist, past the diligent chamber orchestra, through some glass doors and onto a terrace. There was a garden, arranged in geometrical shapes with a small orchard. It was a clear evening. Although cooler than she was used to, she felt herself reviving to the coolness. With light steps, she ran down the path to the end of the garden, where she found a bench and a statue by a tree. She would just sit here a moment, hidden away, she thought, and rest her feet. Then she might return to all these strangers with calm spirit and genuine smiles. She had actually removed her shoes and was stretching her toes in the air when she noticed a gentleman standing in the shadow by the statue. He had been so still, and she so self-pitying, that she had not noticed him. She let out a small exclamation. He darted forward, caught up her shoes, and ran off with them. "Oh, you wretch!" she cried. He'd gone behind some bushes. She glanced back at the lights of the palace and bit her lip. Perhaps he was a murderer. But she could not appear before the emperor without shoes on. Her stockings were new, and they were silk. With a whispered curse, she slipped them off and stuffed them down her bodice, and went after the villain. The ground was wet and soft, cool to her feet. She lifted her skirts so as not to get them damp. He was waiting by a fountain, grinning, his hands behind his back. "My boots," she said in German, not remembering in her agitation the precise word for slipper or shoe. "What boots?" he asked softly. "Mine," she cried. She opened her mouth to say more, but the horrible language betrayed her. "Oh, you wretch!" she exclaimed again in English, and stomped her foot. He was a slight man, perhaps 30, with a profusion of hair and a big, sharp nose. His clothes were fine, she could tell even in the dark, a nobleman making heartless sport with her. "I know Italian," he offered in that language. He had an elegant, well-produced tenor voice. She lunged after him and he took off around the fountain, a shoe in each hand, laughing. But the pebbles were painful beneath her feet and she didn't have enough breath to continue. He backed his way toward the high bushes, laughing at her. With her eyes fixed on the slippers, she followed slowly, relieved to be moving out of sight of the palace. "Well, I do know Italian. I spent some time there. Your accent is impeccable. So is yours. Thank you." She darted at him again, and he lifted the shoes out of her reach. He was just that much taller. "I'll scream," she said. "Please don't, mademoiselle. Everyone would think we'd been having a liaison. You're a brute and a thief." She seemed startled at that. "I'm not a brute. I haven't touched you. You spied on me and stole my shoes." "I did not spy. I was there, and you intruded. Please give them back." He looked down. They were pretty slippers, with a gold trim and pointed toes, and it cost a fortune. "I'd give them back for a kiss," he said thoughtfully. Now she really should scream. Her heart pounded enough to break. "All right," she said. He looked up quickly. They were standing quite close now. "For the shoes," she added, blushing. Gave her a wondering smile. "Is that so?" he said in a low voice. "For the shoes." Then extreme care, as if afraid she would panic, he set down the slippers on the ground beside her. She was breathing quite fast. He straightened and glanced around. Just one. Well, she murmured, amazed at her boldness. The rest depends if I like it first. He laughed again. My God, he said. I've been longing for this all evening. Here it is. He put a hand to her waist and touched her cheek and looked closely into her eyes, though it was very dark. And then he kissed her lips, gently and softly and long. He made Benucci's kisses seem like hard, hasty fumblings. Oh, she breathed. One more. You're a brute. All evening, he said. And then you come running after me. And he kissed her again. She didn't want to know who he was. She didn't want to go inside. But everyone would be wondering. She pulled her stockings from her bodice and he helped her put them on and fasten them with the garters, then helped her with her shoes. His fingers circled her knees and wanted to go higher. She laughed and wriggled away. Go on, he whispered, and gave her a light push. With cautious steps, she eased back into the bustling hall. The crowd seemed larger than when she left it. She could not contain her smile. At length, she found Lydia with the punch. Lydia gave Anna a reproachful look. I'm parched, Anna exclaimed, and drank down half the glass. Her eyes searched the crowd for the gentleman from the garden. She didn't know what she would do when she saw him, but he must surely have come in after her. There you are, said Benucci, approaching with a lady on each arm. We've been looking all over. This is Madame Aloysia Lerner. She's a marvelous soprano. She doesn't know much Italian, so we'll have to make do as best we can with our German. How do you do? Aloysia said daintily. You sang very prettily tonight. Everyone thought so. Her voice was sweet and high as a child's. This is my sister, Madame Constanza Mozart. I don't believe you've met. Hello, said Constanza. How nice to meet you. I enjoyed your singing very much. My husband was in ecstasies. He's a composer. We can't find him, but he was so impatient to meet you and Signor Benucci. He's got such excellent Italian. He'd be able to translate for us. You're the wife of Herr Mozart, Anna asked. She felt a hint of apprehension. But there must be many gentlemen among the party who spoke excellent Italian. That is my fortune, Constanza observed placidly. She was taller and plumper than her sister, perhaps his child. Her face had a certain lack of expression, as though she were either shy or dispassionate. Her form and complexion were good, but hers was an ordinary sort of prettiness. She did not have Aloysia's lips and cheekbones or waist. I would love to meet your husband, Anna said, still in German, though she hardly knew if she was being intelligible. But Constanza smiled encouragingly. I've heard so much about him. He's like nobody else, Aloysia said. Here he comes now. Anna turned and begged heaven to help her. It was he. Indeed, it was he. Wolfgang Mozart had stolen her shoes.